you who participated a great deal in these last Wednesdays and talking about the issues that we were teaching on. So I encourage you to come back this Wednesday as well and give to me a lot of your questions and a lot of your comments, and we'll respond to them. And I'm also hoping that tonight you'll find a great opportunity to participate, text in your comments, your questions. You can find us on the Ustream page, as well as you might even be able to get a hold of a few people through Facebook while we're going on. Tonight, as I typically do on Sunday evenings, I like to introduce you to someone that you might already know a little bit about, but a person who I find to be an inspiring example of someone who has taken faith as something they found they really had to be very honest with and deal with in a manner that was genuine, authentic, that had some true integrity. And this caused them to also make a number of changes in the process of their lives. And the person that I have as a guest tonight is David Hayw. Some of you know him as the Naked Pastor. And I guess that perhaps before I bring you on, David, I should ask, are you decent?
I am decent.
Oh, awesome. Well,
inside and out.
Yes. Now, of course, most people who do know you already probably know you not so much through your blog as through the cartoons that other people share. The way I first became aware of you was all the people sharing your cartoons on Facebook. And then I found out, oh, this guy has a blog and he does a cartoon a day, and that there's a lot of things going on there. And before we talk too much about it, let me tell you that I've often been struck and with great appreciation to the way you have spoken to the dynamics of things that are going on inside of the Christian faith that are not always everything we would like them to be. And you kind of, you call yourself what, the graffiti artist on the wall of religion?
Yes.
How'd you come up with that? I like it.
You know what? I don't know how I came up with that. People always ask me that question. How did you come up with that? When it comes to my cartoons or little pithy sayings I come up with. My mind's just a factory that's working 24/7, coming up with crazy stuff. And I don't know, one day, I love graffiti, but one day that just popped into my mind, graffiti artists on the walls of religion. And it stuck. I put it up there because I think essentially that's what I'm doing is the same as good graffiti artists, just drawing attention to things that aren't quite right in the world.
They're like the Bob Dylans of the past, in many ways, asking questions that make us pause. Yeah. And now, of course, you've been around for a little bit. You started out, you were born in 1957?
That's right. Yep.
Yeah. Awesome. Now, so I'm a little older than you, but I was born in 51. But anyhow, so as you got started, you came into a family that really was a family of faith to begin with. Tell us a little bit about your upbringing in terms of faith.
Okay, yeah, you're out on me a little bit there. But I came into a family of faith. We went to church, now and then. We weren't all that regular. I was baptized.
All right, guys. Hey, David, your voice is not coming across very well. It sounds like your network is congested. This is the producer, Joey Livingston. Welcome all David Hayw fans. We hope you're enjoying the interview so far. We're going to make sure that you get a quality sound from David. David, I'm going to disconnect from you right quick, and I'm going to call you right back, okay? All right. Bear with us just a moment.
Sure. And then while you're trying to get him called back, are we still live?
We are still live. Say hey to everybody.
So
this is the way we roll.
You are exactly. Hey, we're live and we're wild.
Okay, let's pull him back up and see how he sounds. David, are you back with us?
Yes, I am.
Okay, fantastic. We're gonna. We are gonna.
If there's anybody using Netflix or in the house or using your network, you might want to have them.
No, everybody's down.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's just see how it goes from here. Okay, I'm going to fade my mic out, and we're going to pick up where we left off.
Yeah. So you're talking to us about growing up in a family that finish what you're saying.
Yeah, I was baptized as an infant in the Anglican Communion in Canada. And we went to church on and off, different churches here and there. We moved a lot. But things really got serious when I was around 15 years old or so. We got involved in a Baptist church, and basically, like the whole family kind of went into the church at the same time, and then I was heavily involved in the youth group, and I'm the oldest with five kids, and then we ended up in the Pentecostal church, and then from there I went to a Pentecostal Bible college in Springfield, Missouri. That's where I met my wife, Lisa. And from there we went to seminary. We switched to Presbyterian, and then Presbyterian we switched to Vineyard, and then we went independent for a while, back to Vineyard, and now we're kind of gypsies now. So that's our history in a nutshell.
Wow, you've been literally all over the place then.
All over the map, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm my own. I say I'm my own ecumenical movement.
Yeah. Well, then that would also mean that you've seen many of these issues from a wide variety of standpoints, and I can't imagine, but that's probably a very that's got to give you a view of things that most people wouldn't have.
Well, I get that a lot. People assume that my critique is aimed at fundamentalism or charismatic type of groups or whatever. But like you observe, my experience has taken me through mainline and fundamental and charismatic and independent, all kinds of expressions of church. And I've seen what I critique in everything. The common denominator is people. And so I've seen what I critique in all kinds of places. So it's not, my cartoons aren't just aimed at a certain kind of Christianity or expression of faith or whatever. It's aimed at the church in general, Christianity in general. But like I say, it's graffiti artists on the walls of religion. It really does apply across the religious spectrum. There's priests and rabbis and imams reading my cartoons and appreciating them. So it goes right across the religious spectrum, really.
Now, I, in addition to having been a minister, I used to be an office manager, and having worked in the business world like that, I love the cartoon Dilbert because he seems to understand the dynamics. And in the sense, all organized religion can suffer from being so organized it forgets the people that are in the organization. And that's one of the things I find that you speak to so well. I've seen you use people who are represented as question marks or exclamation points in a number of your cartoons. And recently, I think I saw one where you had all of these people outside the church with question marks, and everybody inside the church is an exclamation point. And
that's one of the themes I work on is the question mark versus the exclamation mark, and they're quite popular, and I love playing with that theme, but it's a generalization, of course. All my cartoons are generalizations. I mean, somebody will always say, well, it's not like that in my church, and great, that's awesome. There are churches out there, there are communities out there that aren't experiencing these things I'm talking about, or all of them.
Right. Yeah.
So, I know there are churches that are open to questions and entertain those, but my experience has been, generally speaking, that questions, like real questions, aren't really welcome in a community that's got things under control.
Real questions can be awkward, but sometimes awkward's really good. It can be really good. I remember one of the first cartoons of yours that I ever saw, if I recall correctly, one of the first ones I ever saw was one, I think there was this balloon up in the air, and there's this community with all these different churches, and there's some sign that says, God is now here, and you see everybody running from the other churches over to the one where the sign is that God is now here,
Yeah.
and it spoke to me about how many times we're running to where we think it's happening, and
Yeah.
I could identify with it because I for a long time felt like, well, if it's not happening in me, it's not happening where it needs to happen.
Yeah.
I need to have that vital relationship with Christ, no matter where
Yeah.
I'm at. How did you come up with the phrase "the naked pastor"?
Oh, well, I'm not sure how that actually came up, but like I said, my just crazy ideas pop into my mind all the time. But that one, I was blogging under another moniker at the time. I think it was Church Pundit, and that just sounded way too heady, and it sounded like I was just a critic of church when I wanted more to come across as I wanted to be a pastor who was sort of bearing his soul to people and sort of revealing what it's really like to be a pastor with the questions and struggles and joys that a pastor experiences. So I wanted to lay my life out there for people to read and see. So I bought the domain name Naked Pastor just because that's what I'm bearing is my soul, right? So I started that. I think it was in 2005 or something. I started using the term Naked Pastor for my blog.
Well, I like it because it's at the same time communicating your transparency while also being a bit provocative in a sense that we church people don't, would like to think we wouldn't do that, and so it's a comment of your type all in one.
Yeah, I mean, it has an edge to it, right? I mean, it raises eyebrows, and people are like, but Naked Pastor poses a very real problem, and that is because of the word naked in the name. People can't access my site in public libraries or at the university or in colleges, or if anybody's using accountability software or anything like that, or if they have their settings on their browser set at a certain way, they won't be able to see Naked Pastor. So that creates a problem. But it certainly does communicate what I'm about. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, by the way, I'm getting some comments already coming in where there's people who are letting us know that they think that you are awesome. They think the cartoons are hot. They're just great stuff.
That's awesome. Good. Thank you.
Anyhow, now I did have a question for you though about your wife Lisa. Has she? Now you've gone through all of these different changes. Were a lot of these changes things that you went through before you met Lisa, or a lot of these since you met Lisa?
Oh no, we've journeyed together. We've been married. We've been together. We've been married more than 32 years. Been together over 33 years. So we have a long history, and we've always been on the same page because we just love each other so much. That's our bond. It certainly isn't compatibility theologically. We're very different in many different ways, and where our compatibility lies is in our love for each other. So we've journeyed together through all this, and whenever major changes come in our life, it's been together. It certainly makes it easier being together. I know many pastors who've made some very significant changes in their caused real difficulties in their relationships, but I've been fortunate that way. Although I got to admit, the past couple of years have been kind of difficult, but we're surviving those well. But yeah, we've been together for a long time.
I got a question here from one of our viewers. David, I think your cartoons are great, and so I can read the whole question here. I think your cartoons are great, and your style is so unique. Do you have any formal art training? Is the question.
Well, that's an interesting question. I was just asked that yesterday by a genuine art major in a fine arts university. if I had any official, real training. But no, I've been drawing since I was a child, and that's been my training. I've been drawing ever since I can remember, and I'm pretty much a self-taught artist. I mean, I never took art professionally in school, college, or university. I'm completely self-taught.
Mm-hmm. Now, I see that your style has changed over the years in terms of what you've done, although your cartoons still maintain a certain look and a certain signature. I noticed that you've also taken on other drawings.
Yeah, I started a series. Maybe is this from one of the listeners, this question?
Yeah, wondering about your formal art training, but I noticed that you've
guys. Before we go too much further, once again, David, your audio is messing up, and I'm glad it's not happening too often. We can just do a quick reset,
okay.
and we'll call you right back. Okay, it'll be a chance for our viewers to stop and digest all the awesomeness. All right.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. One more time. We're going to call him right back.
By the way, for those of you who are watching, you can find him at nakedpastor.com, and there he's got his blog where there are a number of cartoons, and he does draw. I don't know if he publishes all of them, but he does. He's disciplined himself to draw a new cartoon every day, and he speaks to so many of the various issues that we find we're involved with. Every time. Are you back yet, Dave?
Yes, I'm back. Yep.
Yep. Well, I was just telling the viewers while they were making the reconnection about www.nakedpastor.com, and letting them know that although you do draw a cartoon every day, I don't know that you always publish them, but you do draw one every day, and they can get there. Oh, that reminds me. You had for a while a T-shirt that had this logo on it that was Athey-ish. And I was wondering, do you still have those T-shirts?
I have a whole lot of T-shirt ideas, and I'm just now working with a T-shirt company to make them available. So stay tuned for that.
Awesome. Because when I saw that, I liked it. Athey-ish. It spoke to me of lacking the adamancy and dogma of what have you.
Yeah.
When did that hit you? That phrase?
That was I don't know, a couple months ago when I was. I get a lot of atheists like my cartoons. They use my cartoons on their own blogs. They want to interview me and so on. And a lot of people wonder if I'm an atheist. But I tell people I try to get in touch with my inner atheist. I think many of us have an inner atheist. You know the verse, Lord, I believe, help my unbelief. So there's unbelief in all of us, and so I'm not a full-on atheist, but there's times when I'm atheish, and so that's why I came up with that phrase. I thought it was appropriate for me, and it ends up it's appropriate for others.
I've even thought of using a phrase like am I a believer, and I want to say I'm theish.
Theish, yeah.
and atheish too. But anyhow, I have another viewer who's asking. I think this is a great question here. Is that what caused you to finally decide? Okay, I'm going to use this medium of cartoon to communicate a message. When did it hit you that might be a way of making a statement? And how did you come to that conclusion?
Good question. I started drawing cartoons exactly 6 years ago. It's like the September of 2006, and I check out other blogs. One of the blogs I always give this guy a plug because he was my inspiration. Hugh McLeod, gapingvoid.com. He comes up with a cartoon every day, and he draws his on the back of business cards. And one day I thought, I'm an artist. Why don't I just try drawing a cartoon? I've never done one before. And so I drew a cartoon and I put it up, and some people liked it. And I thought, okay, I'll try it again. And I did it the next day and drew a cartoon, put it up. Some people liked it. And so I thought, well, I'm going to personally challenge myself to try to draw a cartoon every day until I can't do it anymore. I thought I would last, I don't know, a few weeks or a few months at the most. But here I am 6 years later and I'm still going. So I don't know if that's a testimony to my perseverance or to my depravity, but yeah, I keep coming up with these cartoons, and hopefully they're improving. And doing one a day, I have to admit that a lot of them aren't that great, but some of them are good and get the point across. Like a picture's worth 1,000 words, right? Everybody knows that, and so if I can communicate in one frame, I try to keep them to one frame. If I can communicate in one frame what took me 20 minutes in a sermon to communicate, then more power to me.
I've seen a number of them that struck me as doing just that, saying volumes in one moment. Now, if we could, and I find it sometimes when people ask me about my guitar playing, I can't think of any specific until I'm actually playing it. But what are some of the specific issues that you've spoken to that you were very, where once you got it down into cartoon, you yourself looked at that and said, yeah, this is working. This says it. What are some of your favorite cartoons that you feel communicated something you really value?
Oh, man, that's a good question, because I can never figure out which cartoons are going to work. I can never predict. And it really bugs me, because if I could predict, I'd be really famous, and maybe even rich. I don't know, because I just am so terrible at predicting what people are going to like. I mean, I'll draw a cartoon and think, I might even be emotional. I'm crying as I'm drawing. It's like, this is so powerful, and I'll scan it and I'll put it up and I'll just wait to see what happens to the traffic, and it just dies in the water.
Nobody cares. Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's a cartoon. I'm desperate. It's like a few minutes before I have to get it on to my blog, and I'll just whip something up, and then it goes crazy. It goes viral. I can, I just can't figure it out. And it's really bothered me about that. But then I've had a lot of friends and, people online who provide counsel for me, and they're like, it's a good thing you can't figure it out, because then you would just totally be feeding your market, and
formulaic.
This is what keeps me fresh, I guess, is just keep coming up with stuff. And I'll tell you some of the ones that really have, in hindsight, I say, yeah, that was a good cartoon. For example, one cartoon is a man is walking with Jesus, and they're holding hands, and he says, Jesus, I'm afraid to tell you this, but I think I'm gay. And Jesus says to him, relax, dude. I knew that long before you did. And I thought it was an okay cartoon when I posted it, but man, has that ever gotten a lot of traffic and a lot of attention. From both sides, it's stirred things up and really offended some people, and then for others, it's really been an encouragement to them. So I suppose those are the best kind, right?
Oh yeah,
the kind that disturb the waters, but also bring some peace to some people. So
speak to where we're at. One that you did recently that I also liked was you had the word God, a plus sign, a picture of the Bible and a plus sign, and then a picture of a church building, and you had the caption over them, the real Trinity. Yeah, the real Trinity. Yeah, the three gods in our life, right? Yeah. That one got some attention too. I really am terrible at math, but once in a while I try to put up a math equation, and I'll have some real math geeks email me and say that you've got that totally wrong. They'll say that's not a divide sign, that's a square root sign, and I didn't know that. But anyway, you learn as you go. Well, yeah, you live. It works anyway. Now, is there any particular cartoon that you really liked that was perhaps the most viral? There's one
where Jesus is talking to his disciples, and his disciples are around him, and he says, "You've heard it said, love your neighbor, blah blah blah." And he says, "But what I really want you to do is abuse the weak, suppress women, and blah blah." And he goes on like this, right? And boy, that one went crazy. There's one site that used that. I can't remember the name of the site right now. Favorite blogs, maybe. But it's got over 1.5 million hits on that cartoon. So that's probably one of my most viral ones.
Mm-hmm.
So the ones where we've obviously taken the teachings of Jesus and totally reversed them. Yeah, those ones they go pretty viral.
Yeah, I find that when it comes to cartoons like that too, that it helps us to stop in our tracks and realize that I think that there's something about some people believe in demons all over the place. I don't know that I'm into that, but sometimes I wonder if there's this real demon of religion, that when we become religious, we start getting into this mode of absurd extremism and things we think that are just going to please God, and we just lose complete sight of it. It seems like we can all fall into that, and your cartoons often speak, as I see them, to that dynamic of absurdity that we go to. There's any cartoon that you had that you would say that you really liked it and it stirred up more trouble than you thought it would?
Well, the one that comes to my mind right away is a cartoon I did of a young woman throwing up into a toilet, and it sounds really graphic the way I explain it. But she's throwing up into a toilet, and what's coming out, what she's vomiting out is religion. It's the cross and the sign of the fish and the Bible and what would Jesus do, and like all these religious symbols and cliches. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was a very powerful image, where she was purging herself of all that was poisonous in her life, and that stirred up some things, because I didn't expect to offend people with eating disorders, and so that was one I didn't foresee.
Yeah, although I can see you certainly wouldn't want to offend people with eating disorders, but no. At the same time, I when I saw that cartoon, and I thought of bulimia, I thought of anorexia, and I actually felt that as indelicate as the topic might be, that there's a sense in which the church is binging on certain things that are just not nutritive, and we're starving ourselves of abiding in Christ, the love of God, living a real life. So it's interesting you say it, because when I saw that, it didn't occur to me that there might be some people who would be bothered by that. I got another question here from a viewer that they're wondering if you have a way of going about trying to come up with your idea for the day, or do these just kind of come like a flood?
Yeah, good question. Oh, they're all good questions. Thanks, everybody. And I love questions, as you know, and I love dialogue, of course. To be honest, sometimes, for instance, I'll think, well, it's about time to address the LGBT, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transsexual issue. And I'll think and think and think until I come up with a cartoon, or it's time to think about posting a cartoon to do with the questions, or I might do that. But most of the time, I'm just sitting there with a blank piece of paper in front of me and my pencil and pens, just waiting for something to pop into my head. Mm-hmm. And it's, I don't know, it's like, sometimes it's like I'm in the middle of the desert waiting for a drop of rain. Really, sometimes it's very desperate. And to be honest, there's been a couple of days where I've posted an old one, because either I didn't have the time to draw one, or I just could not, for whatever reason. come up with an original one.
I find that I have a blog of my own where I often share my own ideas. Of course, I don't do it in drawing, and I couldn't do it with song. But I find it, for me, that I've gotten to a point in my life that I really don't have that much of an agenda personally, so that most of what I end up writing about is actually a response to something somebody else said or asked. And, having brought the topic up, I then go to it. I would wonder if there's times when on Facebook you see a discussion and a cartoon comes to mind, and that's where the idea comes from that day.
Oh, yeah. Well, definitely my cartoons come from real life. I mean, they're inspired by either my history or events that are happening around me. For instance, yesterday I read an article about the Russian punk feminist band Pussy Riot, and
Right.
I've been cartooning about those guys for a couple of times, and I'm very interested in them because what they did in a church. They're defying organized religion and its complicity with the state, and I read an article about them yesterday and what they were reading in prison, and there are some people I really enjoy. Zizek, Slavoj Zizek, Foucault, and the Bible. And I thought, wow, man, that's really cool. That's revolutionary reading, in my opinion. So I did a cartoon about them today. So things like that, they are inspired by things that are going on around me. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Now, are there any cartoons, a viewers asked this actually, are there any cartoons that you regret having made?
Click on me there. Can you repeat that? I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah. I was wondering if there's any cartoons that you regret having made.
Oh, I think so, but I can't remember which ones. I mean, I've got thousands of cartoons in my arsenal now, right?
Yeah.
I've been doing it now for 6 years times 365. So I've got a lot of cartoons lined up, and so there are some that were maybe, like for instance the one that maybe the way I drew it, I regret. So for instance the one with the girl throwing up in the toilet, and I had the word purge on there. I think I might regret having used the word purge, because that has implications that I didn't mean. Like when I use it, I thought of purging yourself of poisonous, toxic stuff. But purge is obviously a word that's used a lot in relation to eating disorders. So I think I regretted that because I'm sensitive to those issues, and I have friends who've struggled with that. So.
Are there any cartoonists who've been an influence to you?
Well, the one I mentioned, yeah, and. Hugh MacLeod of Gaping Void. He's my inspiration. Our styles are totally different, but and he's in the business world, entrepreneurial world. But there's a Romanian cartoonist who I just think is fantastic, and I think his name, I can't remember it, Perovsky, I think, and he just uses black marker. And his drawings are very simple, but he packs a punch, with his drawings. Like for instance, one of his is military thinking, and it shows the head of a guy with a army helmet on, and when he takes off his helmet, there's nothing there, and I thought that was pretty cool. Things like that. He makes a powerful punch with his drawings, and then. I love Banksy. I think his graffiti is amazing. So I think probably most people know who Banksy is, the graffiti artist in the UK.
Now, before you started doing the cartoons every day, did you ever draw cartoons when you were a pastor to help illustrate a message? Did you ever do that back then? Yeah. And
well. Yeah, I did do some cartoons once when I was doing. I used to be in the Presbyterian church, and in the Presbyterian church they have a tradition. They had a tradition called the children's story, and that's when before the kids all went down to Sunday school, they would all run up front, and for 5 minutes the pastor would sit in front of them,
Right.
and tell a children's story, and then they would all be dismissed to Sunday school. But I remember drawing some pictures for kids then, and for my own kids. But you know what? That's a good question. I never thought of translating that into actual cartoons.
Now, people by now have understood that you have been in the ministry, Presbyterian, Vineyard, Baptist, what have you. A lot of them may not be aware of the fact that you no longer are actually serving as a pastor.
Right.
And when did that happen?
The last church I pastored was a Vineyard church. And if you don't know what the Vineyard is, just Google it. But it started in California with John Wimber, and it's into miracles and prophecy and healing and contemporary music and all that kind of thing. And I came to this Vineyard here where I live in 95. I became the pastor of that church in 97, and basically, let's just do a thumbnail sketch. I was the pastor there along with a friend of mine until 2010, the spring of 2010. I'd always wanted to be absolutely clear when it was time for me to go, and I wrestled with ministry. Even the night of my ordination, I was in anguish, wondering if I was doing the right thing, marrying the organization as I was. And so I always struggled with my call as a pastor, and always struggled with organized church, and tried to make the best of it. And I always wanted to know, when my struggles became just so intense, I really wanted to know when it was absolutely clear when it was time for me to walk away. And one night after a difficult meeting with some of my members, I just knew I was done. I just knew in my heart I was done. I walked out from the meeting, and it was a chilly night, and the moon was full, and the stars were bright, and I just this peace came on me. I knew it was time. And so I texted my wife, Lisa. I said, I'm done. And she texted me back, me too. And that's before she knew what had happened. But yeah, it was came to me very clearly. Now, of course, I woke up in sweats in the middle of that night wondering what the heck I'd done, because I knew I was finished, and I informed my leadership, and it all went down very quickly. That within a couple of weeks I was gone and replaced by another pastor who was a friend of mine as well.
We have an idea, by the way, for one of your cartoons that comes from a viewer here that might help, make up for that other one with the woman over the toilet. Religion equals malnourishment is their comment, and it occurred to me that if there was a way of doing this where you could have somebody sitting down somehow representing all the religion and opening up junk food wrappers that are filled with various different symbols and malnourishment. I don't know.
Debbie cakes.
Yeah,
aren't they popular down there in the States?
Yeah. Now you're breaking up to me. I think when I was talking, what was that you just said?
Debbie cakes.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. Twinkies and yeah. Now, someone also made a comment. They saying, they're trying to figure out if Christianity is the medium for your art, or your art is the medium for your Christianity. I guess it's really they kind of melted into one. I think that if it weren't for your cartoons, I probably don't know that I would have you're become aware of who you are, or what it is you had to say.
Well, exactly. Like, I'm not just articulating for the benefit of the people who read my cartoons. I'm articulating my own ideas. That's very true. But I'm even though my ideas have really changed and are maturing or whatever, and since I've left the church, my mind, I feel, is just exploding. I feel very free to think what I think is true, and to write and articulate what I think is true, and to challenge what I think is not true and real and valid. But I'm not willing to deny that I'm a Christian. I'm a Christian, so it's so deeply ingrained in my DNA. But I'm also an artist, and so I'm not willing to separate those two. Though what I do in my blog is an integrated, hopefully an integrated expression of who I am in my totality. As a Christian, as an artist, and still as a pastor. I mean, there's still people in my life I care for, and right. So on, and I'm still teaching and things like that. So, yeah, good question though.
Do you ever have an art exhibition where you are, present at some place and people come and you have a variety of your cartoons on display? Do you ever do anything like that?
I've never done that, no. But there's a local gallery here that shows my art, but they're my paintings and sculptures mostly, landscapes and things like that. But there's another series I started that a lot of my followers really enjoy, and that's my Sophia series, and that's a story of a young woman who was experiencing oppression as a woman, but also religiously and so on, and she's escaped and she's finding her own path and her own individuality and so on. So I have a series of drawings of this Sophia woman. My goal is to get 52 of those and to create a book of her story, but I've been invited to show those at a local gallery, and so I'm hoping to do that someday soon. But some of my cartoons as well, I think, deserve to be shown. Yeah.
Now, I noticed that you do have on your website, nakedpastor.com, some of your other artwork, and that varies quite a bit from your cartoon. Is there any other place where people can find your art other than the cartoons, other than going to, say, nakedpastor.com?
Well, yeah, I sell my art online, nakedpastor.etsy.com, ETSY, and that's where I post pretty much everything I do. All my art's up there, and you can view my paintings, and my cartoons, and my Sophia drawings as well.
Yeah, I would just let viewers know that if they just go to nakedpastor.com, that one of the menu items at the top is the word shop, and that takes them to the Etsy site automatically.
Right.
And I've looked at a number of your other pieces of art, and I really like them. You've gone into styles of drawing, even the Sophia drawings. Some of them are more Naked Pastor-ish in terms of the cartoons you do, and some of them are really works of art that we wouldn't associate with cartooning. And very well.
They're more graphic novel kind of appearance to them.
Do you, I remember the day that you actually, I knew you while you were still pastoring, and I remember the day that you let the world know that you were leaving, and I can't tell you that for myself, I had such mixed feelings. I was both relieved for you and sad. So I would wonder if when you realized and you knew you were done, how mixed were your feelings about that? Did you?
Yeah. Which is why, like, I've started another site, which is davidhayward.ca. I thought I'd just put a plug in there for that, which on that site, you need to join and be a member. That's where I ensure, like, Naked Pastor is a very contentious kind of site. A lot of opinions are expressed there. But I was feeling I wanted a softer, more pastoral side where people could share in safety and hear others and support one another. So I started this other site, davidhayward.ca, and I invite people to join that. But one of the things we have on there is a forum for ex-pastors, and of which I'm one, because, man, the trauma I went through, it was just, I didn't have any idea. I didn't expect it. I mean, there were some joys, right? The sudden sense of freedom. But on the one hand, that's good. But on the other hand, when you feel like you've been thrown into outer space with no, leash, it can be absolutely terrifying. So, with the good, there was a lot of real difficult times: the sadness, the loneliness, the lack of doing public teaching anymore, and all. It was an incredible mixture of excitement, adventure, joy, but really fear, How am I employable? How am I going to earn money? I have a family. What am I going to do what am I going to do when I grow up? Like all these questions were very real. It was very frightening. And I know it's the same for anybody who leaves the church, not just ministers or pastors, clergy. It's traumatic. It's really difficult, especially if that's where you have found your network for community and love and support and all these things. It is really traumatic. I know it is firsthand.
Yeah. Well, I can certainly identify with it. Ever since I was, I think, about 7 years old, I thought of myself as somebody who was headed toward ministry, and it didn't turn into what I thought it was going to be. And having left it myself, it was like I had to go because it wasn't the purpose of my life, and yet the purpose of my life was something it felt like I was walking away from at the same time. Very strange thing. I'd like to let the viewers know a couple of things. That first of all, from nakedpastor.com, the menu across the top, they can also find the davidhayward.ca, the joining site, which is a community there in a sense. They can also find your books and other things, your newsletter. And one of the books that you wrote is, without a vision, the people thrive, or what was that? Did I get that right?
Without a vision, my people prosper.
Prosper, right? Yes, yeah. Tell us a little bit. We only have a few minutes, but tell us a little bit about the concept of that book.
Well, I think vision and goal setting is awesome for businesses. I think it is destructive for community. I sort of took up the baton where Bonhoeffer spoke about visionary thinking in the church as being poisonous and dangerous and destructive to the community as it is, and ran with it. And I really do think that if you want healthy community in a church with authenticity and love and support and all that kind of thing, if you bring in visionary thinking and goal setting for the church, it'll destroy that. You have to choose what you want. And if you want community, then you have to let visionary thinking go. So that's the point of that book.
I think it's a powerful idea, particularly if people need what they need in their community and in their faith, in the community of faith. And when you have that vision, you're not giving them room to be. It is what it is, and community accepts what it is and responds to what is. And if it has an agenda, that's it. Well, anyhow, we're coming up to the end of our time, and I want to thank you. Some people might be wondering what you're doing these days. You're teaching English, or you're teaching in a business school English to foreign students.
Actually, that job dried up a couple of months ago, so I'm basically unemployed right now.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, people should buy a few of your cartoons.
So that's one of the things you'd have to deal with when pastors leave the church is learning new skills and figuring out how to make a living. So I'm right in the middle of that, and I'm doing stuff. I'm working online with my art, my cartoons, my new site, and things like that. I'm keeping very busy and hoping that eventually that this stuff will turn into something that I can do full time and support my family at the same time.
Yeah. Well, we're really out of time. And David, I've just enjoyed chatting with you. We love your cartoons. They really speak to the honesty of self-reflection of our religiosity, and as well as not just speaking critically of things that we do wrong, but also touching chords of things that are going on right. And I really have appreciated it. Thank you for your time, and hope to chat with you again and have you back at some time, and just encourage a lot of people to visit your site, get to know you, enjoy your cartoons, and take a look at your books. And
well, thanks a lot, Bob. I really enjoyed it, and I really enjoyed the questions from the listeners and viewers, and I hope to get to meet some of you.
Sure. Awesome. Yeah. Okay, well, David, thank you so much. We'll bid you farewell and hope to catch you around. And to the rest of the viewers, I'll see you again on Wednesday at this same time with something that we'll be teaching. We'll tell you about it then.